Joining us now is Vaughn Hilliard. He's MSNBC's senior White House correspondent. He's also an Arizona native who has covered Charlie Kirk's rise in conservative politics extensively. So, I mean, I think a lot of people watching have heard of Charlie Kirk, but don't maybe know all about how he got to be where he is. When did you first become aware of Charlie Kirk?
I think it was sometime in 2015, 2016. And I think the Arizona native part of this is relevant because that's where he and his family live. Mm-hmm. And in large part, it was 2016 when he latched on to the sort of insurgent candidacy of Donald Trump, that this organization, Turning Point USA, that he started all the way back in 2012, really started to take off. Arizona was a place in 2022 where effectively his organization allies, they had all but taken over the Arizona Republican Party. They had people like Kari Lake, whose candidacies they were backing. They had a massive door-knocking operation, right? This is a group that had effectively raised hundreds of millions of dollars and was almost the size of the actual Republican Party, almost this counterweight of outside influence that was really quite staggering and only led to this moment here where now Charlie Kirk is somebody who we are talking about and somebody who is now getting noted upon his passing by every living president.
And college campuses, I mean, he was on a college campus today, but people haven't watched him as closely as you have. I mean, he's done how many of these events over the course of...
I mean, he's done hundreds.
Hundreds of them. And this is part of kind of what he has created, the movement he created.
Right. He tried to create a political organization, and it was a juggernaut of one. And yet they had some election losses in 2022. In early 2023, folks may recall, there was an effort to oust Ronna McDaniel as the RNC chair and place Harmeet Dillon into that role. He was the one, Charlie Kirk, behind that, and he was kind of getting Ron DeSantis on board, and that didn't work out. But what really did work out and what really brought Charlie Kirk, you could say, to the next level, not just his podcast, but it was the social media effort. And that is where he was able to actually tap into the youth of the country in 2023 and 2024. And by going to these college campuses and having these open debates where you tell people, come speak into the microphone, tell me why I'm wrong. And that is what really led to Charlie Kirk sort of becoming this American political and cultural figure. It was not the political organization so much as it was that of their presence on social media and that of their presence on these college campuses.
And this kind of advocacy, I mean, I disagree with him on almost everything, but for free speech is something that, yes, he was welcoming people who disagreed with him to argue with him, which was part of sort of what generated a great deal of buzz around him. He was, you know, Donald Trump essentially announced his death today, which is significant for a president of the United States, no matter who they are. He's a 31-year-old political leader. He's also, though, as I understand it, but you tell me more about the orbit, quite close to J.D. Vance, to Trump Jr., to many people who are in the Trump orbit, and has played an essential role to many in the orbit.
Most of them consider him a close friend because anybody that has touched MAGA over the last 10 years will have run interference with Charlie Kirk. He is somebody back in 2022. I was covering the competitive Ohio Senate primary that J.D. Vance narrowly won, and it was Charlie Kirk on the campaign trail with him those last closing days. Marjorie Taylor Greene, but no other senators, no other members of Congress. It was Charlie Kirk and Marjorie Taylor Greene, and J.D. Vance that night in Ohio credited Charlie Kirk for helping push them across the finish line. And Charlie Kirk is somebody who, you know, I think it kind of to the relevancy is like Pam Bondi. I was actually traveling with her today, and she considered him a close friend. Don Jr., effectively, the Republican Party today is MAGA. And much like Steve Bannon has a very popular podcast, Charlie Kirk has one as well. And for folks that understood that they needed to reach Donald Trump or have an influence outside of the normal traditional activists of the party and, you know, longtime Republican officials, Charlie Kirk was that segue to the future. And so a lot of people would talk about what's the future of MAGA beyond Donald Trump. In a lot of ways, it was Charlie Kirk, maybe not in political office, but at least ensuring that there was a base of influence around this idea of MAGA and far-right policies that he was securing through this type of organization and influence and also name recognition among millennials and even younger, you know, these 20-year-olds, these teenagers that have grown up with Donald Trump and MAGA being the Republican Party.
I was just talking with Senator Kelly a little bit about this, but you've attended hundreds of rallies. I've probably attended hundreds of political rallies. this has been such a surge in political violence against people of both parties. I just wonder how it impacts people attending these rallies, politicians being willing to do them, including town hall meetings, and sort of the fear that you that you are hearing from sources you talk to and people in the Republican Party or even in the Democratic Party.
I think that Senator Kelly's poignant statement was concerned that people are going to stop attending events.
Yeah.
I think could not be more real. And if you're looking at a college campus and university, there is nowhere that is more volatile, and I think in a good way, right?
Yeah.
Volatile because you have such an intersection of personalities, of generations, of opinions, a fervency, an eagerness to debate, and a passion that exists here. And having covered, rallies for the last now 10 years, I think it is increasingly a fear of individuals that want to engage in the political process, that want to run for office, that want to get into journalism, that want to be activists and go door knock. I think that this is something that is increasing, and there can be a debate about the words of Charlie Kirk, but those words must be allowed to exist in order to have that debate. And we have lost that here today. And in many ways, I fear what that alternative is. And our role as journalists is to help engage in that dialogue and be able to point out the words that are being spoken by Charlie Kirk. And when those voices are silenced, it doesn't change the actual dialogue. What it changes, though, the heart of who we are and our ability to have that dialogue.
Such an important point. And political events and engagement and accessibility is part of what makes a democracy, part of what makes our country run. Vaughn Hilliard, thank you so much for being here with me tonight.